By the turn of the 19th century, London had evolved into the largest city on Earth. It was a sprawling metropolis where over 1 million souls lived packed together, a place where coal smoke married winter fog, where gaslight fought against the December darkness, and where unimaginable wealth lived side by side with crushing poverty on the frozen streets. In this video, we're using modern AI technology to breathe new life into historic paintings and engravings. We will shift perspectives, change camera angles, and walk through these Victorian Christmas scenes in ways the original artists could only dream of. First, we must understand what made a Victorian Christmas so distinct from our modern experience. Let's step onto Regent Street in December 1848. Gaslighting had recently replaced the dim oil lamps of the past, casting a harsh, theatrical white light across pavements teeming with shoppers, vendors and traffic. The wealthy arrived in private coaches, stepping out to browse shop windows filled with exotic treasures from the expanding British Empire, silk from India, tea from China, and intricate carved ivory. It was a picture of prosperity, but walk just a few streets away and that illusion shatters. There, families huddled in single-room tenements, burning whatever scraps they could find just to survive the night. What strikes me most about this era is the atmosphere itself, specifically the smoke. Every chimney in the city poured coal soot into the freezing December air. When this mixed with the natural river mist, it created what Londoners called a pea super. This was a thick yellowish-brown smog that could reduce visibility to mere feet, turning midday into twilight. Charles Dickens knew this London intimately. His famous descriptions of Christmas were not romantic fantasies. They were observations of a city where the festive season served to amplify both human generosity and human suffering. The River Thames was London's lifeline, and its sewer. This reconstruction shows the frozen Thames during the Great Frost of 1814. It was the last time the river froze solid enough to hold a frost fair. Londoners actually walked across the ice, weaving between temporary shops, printing presses and roasting fires. There are even records of an elephant being led across the ice near Blackfriars Bridge. But the Thames didn't stop freezing just because the weather warmed up. The old medieval London Bridge was demolished in 1831. Without its narrow arches blocking the current, the water flowed too fast to freeze again. Yet beneath the festive ice, the river was deadly. It carried the raw sewage of 1 million people. Cholera outbreaks were frequent, though at the time, no one understood the fatal link between contaminated water and disease. Here is Trafalgar Square on Christmas Eve, 1843. The National Gallery rises in the background, completed just 9 years prior. But look at the centre. The base of Nelson's column stands unfinished. It wouldn't be completed until later that year, and the famous bronze lions wouldn't arrive until 1867. 1843 was pivotal for another reason. It was the year Charles Dickens published A Christmas Carol. This book fundamentally reshaped how England celebrated the holiday. Before Dickens, industrialisation had wiped out many traditional rural celebrations, and many factories treated December 25th as just another workday. Dickens helped revive the spirit of the season, and within years, Christmas became centred around family gatherings, charity and decorated trees. However, for the poor, the Dickensian Christmas was far less magical. This image reconstructs the Whitechapel workhouse around 1850. The reality here was brutal. Families unable to support themselves were separated upon entry. Men, women and children sent to different wings, often forbidden from seeing each other, even on Christmas Day. In exchange for a roof and meagre food, inmates performed back-breaking labour. They spent hours picking oakum, separating old ropes fibre by fibre until their fingers bled, or crushing bones for fertiliser. A Christmas dinner here might mean a slightly larger piece of bread or a scrap of meat, but certainly no celebration. In this era, poverty was viewed as a moral failure, and the relief system was designed to be so unpleasant that only the truly desperate would accept it. In contrast, we have the British Museum in 1858, its grand neoclassical facade towering over Great Russell Street. By the mid-19th century, this building had become a symbol of imperial power, filled with artifacts taken from Egypt, Greece, and dozens of colonised territories. However, it was one of the few places where visiting was free. This allowed working-class Londoners a rare opportunity to see the treasures that their labour and their nation's empire had acquired. By the late Victorian era, Christmas illuminations transformed streets into spectacles of light. This is Oxford Street in 1881. Shopkeepers competed fiercely to create the most elaborate window displays, using gas jets arranged in intricate patterns to spell out messages. For poor children with noses pressed against the glass, these displays must have seemed otherworldly. They looked upon mechanical toys, imported sweets, and gilt-edged books, items that a working-class family could never dream of affording. The expansion of the railways changed Christmas forever. This is King's Cross Station during the 1867 holiday season. Opened in 1852, it connected London to the industrial north. By the 1860s, thousands were using trains to travel home for the holidays, creating the world's first modern travel rush. The railways also brought fresh food into the city rapidly, allowing even modest families to afford a Christmas goose. But progress had a price. The construction of these lines carved through working-class neighbourhoods, demolishing entire streets and displacing thousands with little to no compensation. Here is St Paul's Cathedral in 1872. Christopher Wren's masterpiece, finished after the Great Fire, dominated the skyline. On Christmas morning, the cathedral was packed. Even inside, social hierarchy ruled. The wealthy sat in the front pews while the poor stood at the back. Just outside, Paternoster Row was the heart of London's publishing industry. Christmas was their peak season, churning out cheap novels, religious tracts and children's books. The smell of printer's ink in this area would mix with the coal smoke and the scent of roasting chestnuts from street vendors. The Tower of London served a grim purpose, even in winter. Still a fortress and home to the crown jewels, it remained a prison. This view from 1845 shows the tower under a rare blanket of snow. Though public executions had stopped, its sinister reputation lingered, yet tourists still paid to visit. Meanwhile, Westminster Abbey remained the spiritual heart of England. This reconstruction from 1837 shows the Abbey during the first Christmas of Queen Victoria's reign. Filled with monuments to kings and poets, the building stood as a physical testament to British history and achievement. The completion of the Thames embankment in 1870 revolutionised the city. Before this, the river frequently flooded the streets at high tide. The embankment not only narrowed the river and created new roads, but it also hid Joseph Bazalgette's massive sewer system, an engineering marvel that finally separated London's waste from its drinking water, saving countless lives. Finally, we arrive at Covent Garden Market in the 1880s. Once a fashionable square, it had transformed into London's primary larder. At Christmas, it exploded with activity. Holly and mistletoe arrived from the countryside, oranges from Spain, and exotic fruits from the colonies. Market porters worked through the night to feed the city. But Covent Garden had a darker side. When the market closed, the arches and doorways became a refuge for the desperate. The homeless slept on the very stones where the rich bought their feasts. In London, wealth and poverty were never far apart. Victorian London at Christmas was a city of duality. It was the richest city in the world, yet home to some of the most punishing poverty in history. It celebrated a season of goodwill while maintaining a rigid class system that decided who deserved comfort and who deserved the cold. Through these AI reconstructions, we get a glimpse of what it was like to walk those gaslit streets, to see the Thames frozen solid, and to witness the birth of the Christmas traditions we know today. If there is another city or historic era you would like to see brought back to life, let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the past, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.